Hello boys and girls, short video today talking about the healing in Season 3 and should you come back to heal if you decide to do so, assuming you've quit the game so far. Unfortunately, the game and the PTR are not in a state right now where I can wholeheartedly say I recommend you coming back. It's going to be an amazing season because there are a lot of things that are a little bit dubious right now and we're not sure how they're going to shape up. Now, the reason for that is that Blizzard is trying to make a lot of changes. They're targeting specific problems, but the way they're doing it and the way they're communicating everything is not very clear, and it's not very clear how everything is going to shape up once the season comes up. Let me start with the changes that they announced. I think we've all seen this post with saying that certain healing spells are going to be buffed if they're single target, and certain spells are going to be nerfed if they're AoE. Now, what bothers me here is that they're targeting, let's say, this sentence here, single target healing spells don't currently feel they're powerful enough, so we want to buff them and hope this makes healing in M+ dungeons less stressful for healers. Great, they're targeting something, but this says nothing about raid. Nothing says how this change is going to affect the raid, it's only targeting M+. And then if you start reading downwards, the nerf of the healing AoE abilities and the mana is only referring to the raid in the next two paragraphs without saying how this affects M+. This bothers me a lot because mana is going to be a huge issue in M+, which is not something that should be, in my opinion, the way the mana should work in M+. Mana should not be an issue there, and you should be able to press your buttons and help your party succeed in leveling the dungeon. Is mana going to be an issue in raid, and is it supposed to be an issue in raid? Yes, probably, but they're not saying how this affects M+, and vice versa. If you're playing mainly in raids, how are the buffs to healing target spells are going to affect you? They change your playstyle and you're probably not going to enjoy healing raids that much, but they are not saying anything about this. They're just saying we're nerfing the AoE spell abilities. So this is the first thing that bothers me. They're targeting something, but they're not listing how those changes are going to affect the other aspects of the game. When there's a change to a spell, let's say they're buffing or nerfing some spell, they usually note if that affects PvP, right? They say, okay, this is also going to be the same in PvP, or this effect is not going to be the same in PvP. But they're not doing the same here. They're not saying how changes to Mythic Plus scene are going to affect the raid, and vice versa, which makes me very scared that some of these changes might be very good in one of the aspects of the game, but very bad in the other. The other thing that kind of bothers me is the fact that some of the tier sets are very narrow-minded and targeting a specific, let's say, scene as well. So some of the sets are very good for raid, some of the sets are very good for M+, but there are no sets that basically cover both, maybe with few exceptions. So that means that you're basically stuck playing with some bonuses that you don't care about. For example, if you take the 4 Shaman tier P set, I don't care in M+ if my Riptides are spreading, right? I can spread them myself. There's only 5 people there, so this effect is basically useless to me, while in raid you're hoping for them to spread so you can basically have Riptides sticking on everybody, and they even nerfed that effect, which is another topic. So this is the other thing that kind of bothers me. It's kind of in the same direction. Some things are targeted very well to cover some aspects of the game and others are not. And then testing some of the dungeons in M+, in the PTR, there are a lot of places in those dungeons where the healer discrepancy is very obvious. By that I mean there are certain dispels of certain, let's say, poison, disease, or curses that certain classes can do and others cannot. This makes it very hard for pugging because I'll just come back to the example of Algitar Academy in Season 1. If I was a shaman or a priest, I couldn't go in there because I couldn't dispel the poison. And if you tell me, well, just pick a class that can do it, well, if you're pugging, whoever is the team leader, he's just going to pick a healer that can do it, right? He's not going to bother looking for somebody else who can do that. And unfortunately, I see a lot of scenarios like that in the current season Mythic Plus 2 pool as well. There are, for example, some curses in Waycrest Manor that shamans can deal with, but other classes cannot. There are a lot of poisons and diseases that I've seen around, and this is just going to make it further distinguish between healers in the meta. And the last thing that I'm scared about is that once you go into a dungeon in the PTR, your gear is basically scaled to level 440. So I guess they have an idea behind this, but first that scaling kind of changes throughout the dungeons, which is a little bit weird. And then what bothers me here is that what the result from that could be something that happened in the beginning of Season 2. If we go back to Neltarian's Lair, that dungeon was so overtuned that it was basically unmanageable, undoable, right? And that was basically direct result of the testing that they did. So I don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. That could be a good thing, that could be a wrong thing, but basically when we go into the PTR and when everybody goes into the PTR to test the dungeons, they're not wearing the item level that you actually are going to be wearing when you face those keystones, right? So they're kind of doing some interpolation of crunching the numbers and coming up with the right numbers at the end based on what they see from level 440, but I'm afraid that the scaling is not going to be the same at the end of the season. So all of those small issues basically make me very scared for healing for Season 3, and I haven't even mentioned the balance of classes, because we all know what happened in Season 2. We had the God comp, where the only possible healer was basically the Holy Paladin. I think this will be shaken up a little bit, although in my eyes, Holy Paladin is still going to remain very dominant just because of the amount of cooldowns that it has, not the HPS or the damage that it can do, but we'll have to wait and see for that. Right now, I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't think it's going to be a bad season. The dungeons are actually quite nice and quite interesting in my eyes. But all those small issues might make the healing quite unpleasant. All, of course, depends on the changes they're going to make from now until the release, which is probably a month away, and also the tuning, the final tuning of the dungeons and the healing spells that we're going to be casting. So for that, now I'm going to give it like a middle grade, let's say 5 or 6 out of 10, but I still have high hopes that things could change to the better once the release approaches. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, happy healing and take care.